there, Amber. My name is Dre, and I represent the Now That's Heavy podcast. Today, we wanted to discuss and sit down and talk about the Hell on Wheels tour. Now, the name itself is very controversial, but it's also nothing far fetched from what PETA does with gaining attention to the things that they want to have attention to be on. Now, for the people who don't know what Hell on Wheels is, can you explain that for us?
Our Hell on Wheels transport trucks are uh, like real life-size representations of how animals used for food are transported in this country, usually from the factory farms where they are raised to the slaughterhouses where they are killed. And as you can see, if you are able to check out our truck while it's on its nationwide tour, currently going through Texas and everywhere else across the country, these animals are literally crammed together, shoulder to shoulder, sometimes on top of each other for hours, if not days on end, without food or water, or any kind of air conditioning or heating. So during the summer, they are getting sometimes literally baked alive or dying from dehydration. In the winters, animals have been found to be literally frozen to the sides of these trucks. And as you can imagine, nothing happy or humane ever happens at a slaughterhouse where those animals are killed and hacked apart alive. And that's why we thought the name Hell on Wheels was a very fitting one for this really eye-catching and ear-catching display, because there is an audio component to it as well.
It's definitely eye catching for sure. Because when I first saw the experience, it was a definite like shock factor for me to be able to just hear that. And for those people that were out there, because I happened to witness the one that's out here in Dallas yesterday, and just the irony that it was literally parked outside of barbecue place was the boldest thing I think I've seen so far this year. Of a lot of things that's already been happening. Now, when I
We're
say the
doing our jobs.
now when I say the shock factor, do you guys think that this type of bold statement gets the job done, or does it changes people's perspective, or does it just put a sour taste in the mouth of PETA personnel? Because I know for over the years, PETA's done some very grave things to be like, we're going to go ahead and just we're going to put blood on the fur, or we're going to drop the cow manure off in the street, whatever it is. Those bold statements and those bold tactics, do you think that it helps the problem, or does it prolong it, or take away from what the actual issue is?
After literally decades of myself and PETA working on this issue, absolutely the word needs to get out in bold ways, because cruelty to animals and the suffering of animals is, one, uncomfortable. We don't want to think about it. And two, these industries literally spend millions of dollars every year hiding this, truth, this simple fact from people, that these aren't just chunks of food that are slathered in barbecue sauce at the barbecue restaurant. These
Right.
were the bodies of living, feeling beings who went through literal hell from the second they were born to the second that they died. Whether they were born out, hatched in a giant factory hatchery and never got to meet their parents. In the case of chickens will communicate and peep with their chicks through their shell before they're even hatched, and start teaching chickens how to communicate with each other. In the egg and chicken flesh industries, they never even meet their parents. They're hatched in industrial machine hatcheries, and then they are transported into these factory farms where they're crammed thousands, tens of thousands, even millions of birds into one factory farm property. That is no kind of life for any living being. And it's being done to literally over 10 billion land animals in the United States each year. And that's one of the other kind of statements about this being a transport truck, because most people have maybe at least seen, if they even noticed, these animals being trucked down the highway. If you've ever been on the highway, you might have
Yeah,
noticed a
I
truck
have.
like this.
I've seen. I think it was an actual. It was a Tyson truck when I seen the birds in the back with the feathers flopping. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of a cramped space
Mm-hmm.
for them to be in. So what do you say to those who say, okay, it sounds like the right thing to do to save the animals, right? We want to be able to protect them and to recognize that they have feelings, but if we just save every animal or we treat it as such, we might get overpopulated. Or for those who just think it's not a big deal, it's the circle of life. What do you say to those people?
Well, factory farming and mass raising and killing tens of billions of animals every year is in no way the circle of life. These are animals who are forced into existence, live nothing but a life of suffering, and then are killed for corporate profit, and taste buds when we could be eating all the delicious, delicious, absolutely delicious vegan barbecue that's out there, for example, and pretty much every other food you can
Right.
think of can be made delicious in a vegan version, right? Um, the other thing is it is not just the animals, although that's obviously why PETA is raising this issue. But factory farming and this mass consumption of meat, dairy, and eggs in our society is having impacts on us. It's on human health and increasingly public health. So avian flu has been ripping through this country because, in large part, we have massive factory farms that are cramming millions of animals together in filthy, unhealthy conditions. So far, it's only just been spreading mostly between the sick animals themselves, who are then, mass killed in incredibly cruel ways. So, for instance, if one chicken on a factory farm tests positive for avian flu, they will shut off the ventilation shafts and suffocate them all to death. Sometimes millions of animals just suffocated to death inside a giant factory farm shed that gets turned
Right.
into a tomb, basically. And, that is because of the demand for meat, dairy, and eggs that is, making a profit motive for these companies to keep mass raising and killing these animals. It's only spread so far
Hmm.
to, well, several dozen people, from humans to people. It hasn't yet gotten to that
Hmm.
pandemic stage where it's spreading human to human,
Right.
but there's a lot of worries about that. Uh, could be happening any day. So it's not just the animals; it's
For
us. It's
sure.
us as well.
For sure. And to that point, I agree. With our podcast, we like to talk about heavy situations or heavy things that people don't like to talk about or may shy away from. And our on our platform, we like to make it available for everyone without picking a side and try to understand and sit down to have those conversations that a lot of people don't, or they just off the top they're not educated about. So for we know we're talking about the animals being packed in, and it can cause bacteria backspread that can have a long term effect for not only them, for humans. So, what do you say to the corporates and the industries who have these plants? What other precautions can they use that are better for long term versus just cost effective for right now? And if we can just cram them into a couple of acres a yard and get the job done and pump them and dump them, what is some other cost effective ways or better treatments that they can implement to make PETA and so forth more comfortable and make the world somewhat a better place for those animals as well.
Well, we've been saying for a long time, and the trends are there that vegan is the future. We need to move away entirely, from that mass raising and killing for animals for food. It's really outdated. It's harmful to us. We can get everything that we need on a healthy, very vegan diet. And even a lot of the even large uh, meat companies also have vegan product lines now.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been encouraging, as workers have been laid off and plants have shut down and things like that, to transition to that much safer, because again, worker safety is a major problem in the meat industry. It's
Right.
especially currently if you saw the news, the slaughterhouse line speeds, the rate at
Hmm.
which they're cycling sometimes tens of thousands of animals through a single slaughterhouse in one day. Those line speeds are moving at breakneck speed. These chickens are being shackled by their back legs into these metal shackles, and they just go whirring down this assembly line, or really it's a disassembly line, whirring blades, boiling electrified water. These workers are, trying to keep up. Injuries are very, very high, and they just increased the cap even faster. The line speeds are moving even faster. And that's probably no surprise. We just posted recently about all these people posting on TikTok, finding like weird stuff, in their chicken flesh. There's like, I wouldn't
Yeah,
be
I've
surprised
seen
if
a
we
couple of
start
those
seeing
videos
that more
myself.
often, right?
Yeah.
Because these are living, feeling animals who are being turned into these chunks of flesh. People are finding feathers and chunks of bone and stuff like that, cysts, tumors. These are not healthy animals.
So my question is, for the people who do eat meat, right? They may feel like, well, they just think I'm a bad person because I eat meat. That doesn't make me a bad person. What is the concisest answers for that? For those who've eaten nothing but meat their whole life, and this is just their way of life, and they honestly they like to just mix both. They like to eat veggies and meat. Why can't I have why can't I have a steak with a side of veggies? What is the problem with that? What would be your response for those? Because I feel like some people would be more supportive of the issue and probably be more a little proactive to change their diet. But maybe I would say the way it comes off if you just have the meat truck pull up to the barbecue spot, which is by far the most boldest thing I've ever seen, and I love it. I love bold statements, but for those who don't feel that same way, they may think it's a bad taste in their mouth, and it makes them want to just rebel, even be a rebel even more. So how do we solve that issue?
Well, I think sometimes when self defensiveness comes out, maybe that is a symptom that maybe they do already feel a little uncomfortable about the issue and not totally secure in that issue. From when I've gotten into deep conversations with people, I grew up eating steak and drinking big giant glasses of cow's milk when I was a kid.
Right.
And it took me a little bit of looking into things and looking into myself and deciding, what kind of things I wanted to support with my money. And, I decided that I couldn't justify that to myself. And I started saying, can I justify putting the workers in the chicken slaughterhouse through that too?
Right.
Or the water pollution and air pollution. So, like in North Carolina, for example, the pork industry is very strong. They're literally spraying um, liquefied pig feces into the air, and people are breathing that in. Their kids are getting asthma. Like, do I want
Right.
to support that? Do I want to have a pulled pork barbecue sandwich that's made out of pig, or jackfruit or seitan or any of the other delicious, more healthy vegan things?
Right.
I mean, you can slather barbecue sauce on everything. It tastes good. The barbecue sauce, I'm telling you, is what makes it
I might have
so
to try
good.
that.
And the cooking methods, right? So, uh, you know, this is a positive thing. People taking back control, especially in how crazy the world kind of feels right now. A lot of us feel like we don't have too much control
Right.
over what's going on um, with the economy and whatever else we have to worry about. This is a way people have found to feel like they're taking back some of that control, not putting money into the pockets of these really horrible companies that are doing bad things to animals. Um, Advertising McDonald's McDonald's used to be in my school, my elementary
Yeah.
school. I look back and I'm like, what is going on there? Um, you know, Seeing how much we were programmed. In school, I remember they said eat your veggies, right?
Right.
But then we had the dairy industry
Hmm.
representative every year come in and push how you have to have cow's milk, even though the vast majority of people are lactose intolerant or have
Hmm.
dairy
I
allergies.
remember those
What's
campaigns. The
what's there
Got
for them,
Milks. Yep.
right? Millions, millions, millions of dollars the dairy industry spends on convincing kids that they need to drink cow's milk. Meanwhile, that's an access issue. They're forcing kids to drink cow's milk when it makes them sick, and they aren't being provided any options that aren't going to make them sick. There's issues with that, right? So again, like, this is a very positive thing. If you go to PETA.org, you can order our free vegan starter guides. We've got recipes and meal plans. You can go see photos and even hear the Hell on Wheels truck if people are really, vying for it and didn't get a chance to see it in person. Just all those materials. But yes, as you said, we will talk. We don't shy away from the heavy stuff either. So we will talk about both ends because people need to hear it.
How do you guys go about targeting where we're going to host these events or where we're going to set up shop to make our statements and make our agenda heard? How do we go about that? Is it just company based or do we have a selective community that we want to target? Or how does that go about?
I mean, the Hell on Wheels truck has been on big old nationwide tour. So we also have a pig truck and a chicken truck actually on tour
Right.
right now. So the chicken truck has been stopping by not only like chicken places but also uh, places that are selling eggs, especially upcharging for eggs right now because of that, again, that mass
Mm-hmm.
killing from the avian flu outbreaks. So stopping by like IHOPs and things like that.
Right.
Again, getting people to think, you know, where they're consuming these things, grocery stores, restaurants, cafes like that. Because again, these industries know that people care about animals, and they'd rather you not even think that that even came from an animal in the first place,
Right.
in most cases. And that's when people are sitting down to eat. That's when they're making that decision. Am I going to choose that? I could go grab the tofu on the other shelf, or I could grab that, thing full of chicken breasts that may have pus and cysts in it. You
Yeah,
don't know.
I definitely had a meatless day yesterday after hearing all those animals in the slaughter.
Or
I said,
hearing them, yes.
yeah, hearing it firsthand, and I think also probably being able to see it, it will draw like a traumatic experience. But I
The
don't.
trucks, I mean, you can look into their eyes, and
Mhm.
I have personally been to vigils outside of slaughterhouses and looked into the eyes of chickens, cows, and pigs right before they got brought into the gates of those slaughterhouses.
Right.
And it really does change you, to to see them right before they go in. So
Are there going to be any other methods, such as like ones we're having right now, just a sit down conversation? We're not even just like our podcast with other meat eaters or celebrities that you think that can be more effective. Do you think that could be a more effective route than just we're going to go ahead and just drop manure off in the middle of the street because you guys because you guys ain't getting the message yet, or do you think there are other ways that we can we can get our point across without being so out front or dramatic? But again, Peter's known for the dramatic, and it does have a long
we
lasting effect.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, we do the full gamut. Yeah, it's not every day that we're dumping the manure, which we have been doing that and our human meat trays,
Hmm.
for outside of like Whole Foods,
Right. That's
because
wild.
Whole Foods has a major problem with trying to say that their meat is all humane and stuff, and
Okay.
you look behind the curtain again, PETA, we're not just out doing protests all the time. We do investigations. We've been doing
Right.
investigations since our founding. And, every single time you start looking behind these closed doors at these facilities that are often, out far away from, any eyes that might think something's wrong, who's not in the industry, right? And we just find egregious cruelty, even the stuff that's slapped with like animal welfare
Hmm.
certified and sold, for astronomical prices at Whole Foods or other high end stores. You'd think the
Right.
conditions were different. Those animals are still in factory farms. They're just using better marketing
Right.
tactics. Again, because they know people care about these issues. Um, but the answer is to choose that healthy vegan option,
Right.
not get duped in and drawn into the labels. Because as you said, like people are eating a lot more vegan foods, even if they don't call themselves vegan yet.
Do you
It's
have
it's
a do you have a general synopsis of what brands? Because I know again a lot of people they have a routine grocery pickup, right? They go get the Tyson chicken, or they go get the Hickory Farm, or they go get their ham from these specific stores, not realizing that these people might be behind some of the issues that we're facing.
mm,
So what are some of those? I know we have some like Tyson. I know Peter and Tyson doesn't have the best relationship either. But what are some other businesses that people can look out for to maybe second guess? Do I want to buy products from here because they don't treat animals with decency or humane conditions?
mhm. Well, I mean, honestly, the what we see is that these industries have a set of standard industry practices, right?
Hmm.
So they're all buying from the same company that um, provides the battery cages where the chickens used for eggs are crammed in, to the size of a newspaper, or several hens, you get less than a sheet of paper per space. They're all using those cages, same size cages. The pork industry, in the couple of states have banned it. Those might even very well be repealed soon. Gestation crates. So the pork industry overwhelmingly, every pig who was born and raised to be slaughtered for their flesh, they were born to a mother who was confined to a gestation crate for her pregnancy. And that is a crate that is just barely bigger than her body. She can only stand up and sit down, basically. She can't
Right,
turn around. Um, she is caged in a cage basically the size of her body. That's like the vast, vast, vast majority of the industry. Even the smaller farms, or the ones that are, selling to Whole Foods or fancier places like that, are
hmm,
still going to be using routine mutilations, so castration, so without pain relief, cutting off the tips of beaks for chickens in the egg industry. Uh, if you check out our Nellie's free range investigation, you think like the term free range sounds really good, right?
right.
Like they're
Free
out,
range chicken and grass
right?
fed cows.
PETA did an investigation into
Right,
Nellie's free range, and it turned out 20,000 hens crammed into a shed with little hatches to the outdoors, which was like a barren yard um, without any cover. So the birds, you know, how can you get 20,000 birds out of a factory farm shed through a tiny hatch and give them any sort of, but all they have to do
right.
is provide access to the outdoors. They don't need a guarantee. So it's all
Okay,
this
okay.
funny wording and these labels that make us feel good. Sure, there may be a little less bad than the factory farm that just is operating in the shadows and,
Right,
supplying to your school who doesn't, care, or, whatever um, about you seeing that label. But is that really still humane? No, absolutely not. So that's why we have found, just whenever animals are used for profit, they always suffer. They're always being exploited, and their interests are always going to be traded off, because if you were really treating them properly, there is absolutely no way it would be profitable to provide one egg hen who lays eggs for the egg industry with a veterinary visit would entirely wipe out the profit that they'd get from her laying eggs for her entire life, which, by the way, should be 10 years. Chickens for the egg industry are usually killed at 1 to 2 years of age
right,
because they become not profitable enough to keep alive. And the same goes for cows in the dairy industry. They can live for 20 years. Their bodies are usually worn out and they're killed around 4 to 6 years old.
right.
So it's just, yeah.
I would say
I
this.
know the tendency to just want to say, is there just a way to do it right? There's just not a right way to do
Right.
the wrong thing here. Yeah.
And I want to say this for our heavies. That's what we call them for our podcast. That's our fan base, our heavies. That Peter has an agenda, right? And theirs is to save animals. They're not into politics. They're into making sure that other beings that are not human are treated with the same type of decency and respect if they even have to come to your plate. They're, they want you to go as vegan as possible, right? But in a perfect world, we know that's not going to happen. In a perfect world, it would be great. But everybody has something that they want to fight for and that they believe strongly in. And with our platform, we give everybody the decency and respect and time to come on here and say their side of the story because there's always another side that you might not hear. And I've learned a lot just off this conversation, and I hope the people that watch this will too. Hopefully, it may spark and change a few perspectives before they go and select those chicken nuggets out of the aisle. Instead of the nuggets, go get tofu, go get some hummus. Just put a little dab of barbecue sauce, like Amber said, and it'll make
There you
everything taste so
go.
much better. But I definitely, and on behalf of the podcast, we definitely appreciate you guys for taking this interview to be able to educate and inform, and have these sit down conversations. It can happen, people. These type of conversations can happen. She didn't throw no manure over here. She didn't have to. She didn't dangle the fur coat over my head. This was a this was a simple. Let's sit and talk about why we're putting food trucks in front of barbecue shacks and everything. Now I will say, I if you can answer this question, this will be my last question because I was told the destinations of a few of the stops for the food truck. What was what was the significance for Peppa Pig, the Peppa Pig amusement park? Because some people I've heard they didn't like that. They did not like the Peppa Pig pull up, hearing the screams of animals being slaughtered at a place that's supposed to be safe and fun for kids. What is the significance and strategy behind that?
PETA actually has a bit of a campaign history behind that. We've been pushing them to not serve up Peppa Pig's friends at the cafes at the theme parks. So we've had some back and forth with that, encouraging them because currently, they I think kind of wisely saw not to serve Peppa directly at their cafes, but they're serving a
Right.
bunch of other animals. And, children are very empathetic. They
Mhm.
have likely also been on the, highways and seen these transport trucks pass them by as well. And, these are conversations that parents need to have with their kids when they're out in the world as well. So we are trying to urge the theme park to update its menu to be a little more in line with, you know, not serving up Peppa's friends, and yeah, getting that conversation going.
You know, I might get in trouble, but I love the strategy. I'm a good I'm a sucker for good strategy. You know, whatever you thought was going to be bold to get your point across and it works. People get mad, they get mad. The point is, you're supposed to have a place where you're supposed to be heard, and sometimes simple sit downs can't just happen. It can't be the only way. You know, sometimes you just got to hit them in the mouth with the animal noises and put the pigs right there on Front Street so
Yeah,
they can get the message.
I mean, sometimes us advocates are, yelling at the top of our lungs at the world to listen. In this case, with the pig truck, we put the voices of the animals there for
Right.
people to have to listen, and
And
people
this
have
is
to
not. And I
confront
want
that.
people to understand this is not the only. PETA is not the only people to do such crazy tactics. Okay, when evolution shows when people are tired and people want something done, you have to do dramatic things sometimes in order to get your point across. And I'm not going to list any comparisons, but I want people to take this with a grain of salt that there's multiple ways to get it done. whichever one is most effective is the one you should always go with. But Amber, again, I appreciate you. We appreciate you. We're definitely gonna post and reshare this, and hope you guys get y'all's message across. And again, hopefully, somebody put that food down, pick up a carrot, put the meat down, and have a different eye opening view about what they're about to put inside their body. Because it's not just about taking care and making sure that the animals are safe as well. It's also about what goes inside the human body. And I also think meat sometimes has a very detrimental effect on the human life and life expectancy, because the average
Mm-hmm.
life of a man and a woman has gone down dramatically, I think, every couple years. And a lot of people just don't watch what they put into their body. They think
Yeah.
just because the
Oh, we
label
we
says
barely touched on the health, but we could go in a whole other podcast on it. Absolutely.
they don't look, they just see the labels that says gluten free or
Mm.
fat free, and it's just like, yeah, nah, we're good, without doing the proper research and without figuring out what what is the process that it took for my food to get to me. But again, I thank you for shedding that light, and hopefully somebody out there gets this message.
Yeah. And order those vegan starter guides. We got
Oh
them
yeah, I
for
picked up one.
people.
I picked up
Excellent
one. I checked it
resource.
out. I checked it out. I'm not a big hummus fan. Not gonna lie. I can't do it. I don't like the texture of hummus. Hummus is not my thing. But I'm a fair
That's the
person.
beauty
I
of
give.
vegan foods, right? So like you got what? Chicken, cows, pigs, maybe turkeys. That's like four.
Mhm.
Vegan food, there is
What's your to go
thousands.
to vegan option?
Like I said, I was on a bit of a jackfruit kick for a while.
Okay.
But I've been vegan for a while. I still love my tofu. I do my tofu scramble. But also there's the just egg. So they do that in like a liquid form for like scrambles, or these like folds that you can put into a breakfast sandwich really easy.
Okay.
So that's been a really nice breakfast go to lately. And I've been doing vegan meatball subs lately.
Okay.
I've been on a kick with that. You can get Gardein, and I think Beyond Meat still has does their vegan meatballs, or you can make them yourself as well. We've also got recipes for like
I'm gonna have to
homemade
try
vegan
some of those
meatballs with
out.
like seitan and stuff like that.
I know we have a restaurant out here called Slutty Vegan, and
Oh yeah.
I haven't yet to try it, but I
Oh, you
think that I
got to
really
try
want to
it.
try it.
Yeah, we've partnered with them. Very, very good. Very good.
Well, again, thank you,
Must try.
Amber. This has been a joy. Um, thank you
a,
for allowing
a
us.
joy talking about this topic. That's
It has. It's I like to look
that
at
is a
the I
tough
like to
feat.
it is, and this is why we have this podcast. We love talking about the heavy stuff. Like this is what makes the world. There's a lot of things that people don't see that's inside that gray area. That
Mm-hmm.
gray area is where all the meat is. They just give you the percentage of the meat on the outside and the black, and it's like, yeah, this is all good. Trust me, just trust us. If you dive into that gray area, which we do, you'll find out a lot more is out there than meets the eye for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, people, that was heavy. That that was pretty heavy. Um, Make sure that y'all like, subscribe, share, follow the page on YouTube, Spotify. Now that's Heavy Podcast, Instagram, TikTok. Follow PETA as well. This was an interesting conversation. Hopefully, uh, for the people that it was meant to be seen and heard by, it works. But for you you meat eaters out there, y'all did this. I just want y'all to know. Y'all did this. Y'all, Peter done had enough of your shit. Peter told you the nice way. They asked and they asked, please. They said, please, just try different options. Now you got people out here being traumatized by the damn food trucks from Peppa Pig to the barbecue spot, the ham. They coming somewhere near you. You gonna wake up one day and there's a truck You're full of cow shit at your favorite spot because you chose to let animals be sacrificed in an unhumane way. I want y'all to think about that. But Andre, what this is that's now this heavy podcast, I can't even get it out. Hey man, watch the video, like it, subscribe. I'm out of here.